Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Venice, warmly known as UCOV. I am so glad to see you all here. I am Reverend Amy Petrie Shaw, and today I am both your worship associate and your worship leader. It's all Amy all the time. But again, welcome to UCOV, where we strive to be a bastion of liberal religion here in Florida. If you are here for the first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you stopped by the welcome table out there on the lanai. If you didn't, please feel free to stop after the service. If you sign in, you can get more information about who we are and maybe sign up for our newsletters. You're welcome to join us after the service for some mild refreshments. If you are here for the first time, please feel free, if you are so inclined, to raise your hand and introduce yourself and tell us where you come from. Do we have anybody for the first time? Okay, anybody returning? All right, we got some returning there. Hey! Yay! We missed you. I just have a couple of announcements, and then Marcia has one. We have two upcoming memorial services. On September 24th, right after the service, about 11:30, for Marianne Lombard. And then on October 8th, for Mary Leone. Again, right after the service, for Mary, we will just do a brief reading or two in here, and then we will be going out to the Memorial Garden. So Mary Ann on September 24th, please join us, and Mary on October 8th. And then Marcia, I believe you had an announcement. Where is Marcia? Come on up.
Good morning. This is your ministerial search minute. The ministerial search is a long process. Folks want to know, when do we get candidates? The answer is early next year, the committee will confidentially begin interviewing candidates early next year, and you'll get to meet a candidate next April. But meanwhile, we still have work to do. We did this ministerial search survey, well done. The results will be published soon. 2 more tasks ahead of you. Number 1, cottage meetings. They're going to get started very soon. Please contact Steve Simon to join a group, or you may sign up on the lanai anytime, but directly after the service would be a great time. You will soon receive an email, excuse me, prompting you to do so, but you don't need to wait for the email. Please go right ahead. There's a sign-up sheet. All of our UCOV members who are at Village on the Isle are already scheduled for a meeting. Yay! Number 2, the Beyond Categorical Thinking Workshop. Please save the date, October 27th, Friday, October 27th. Look for more information on the Lanai Bulletin Board, in Connections, or on In Touch. I'm also hiring a skywriting airplane for early October. Well, I would if money were no object. That's your ministerial search minute. Thank you.
So when should they sign up for the cottage meetings?
Today.
And where do they sign up?
On the lanai.
And when is Beyond Categorical Thinking?
Friday, October 27th.
We light our chalice today to remind us of the memory of Muhammad. All blessings be upon his name, and of those who have come to bring light into the world.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
The birthday of the Prophet Muhammad. Now, last week, we had a memorial service for 9/11. We saw some of the best of what America could be and the worst of what Muslim extremism can look like. This week, we're going to look at the beautiful side. We gather here today to explore the birth and the life of a man who never claimed to be divine. He claimed no miracles. He didn't rise from the dead. He lived and he wrote and he married and he died. And he was so adamant that nobody ever worship him that he would not allow pictures of himself to be painted because he was afraid that someone would use them as an idol. And yet Muhammad, may peace be upon him, he changed the world forever. And he never intended to. So come and let us worship here together on this joyful day as we gather to celebrate Mawlid. And please take a moment to just say hi or to introduce yourself to the people around you this morning. we're going to start off today right with our gathering hymn, number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. We're going to sing it through 3 times, so please rise in body or spirit as you are willing and able. For number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Our children's chapel time is when we explain to the smallest among us what it is the adults are going to be talking about after they leave. And today we're talking about Muhammad and the religion of Islam. And Muhammad was the founder of that religion. Followers of Islam are called Muslims, and they believe that Muhammad got messages from Allah, or God. Allah is simply the Arabic word for God. And these messages got collected into a book, the Quran, the holy book of Islam. Now, Muhammad was born in Mecca, which is now in Saudi Arabia, in about the year 570. His father died before he was born. His mother died when he was very little, and he was raised by his granddad and his uncle. And when he was about 25, he married a really rich woman who liked him very much. And it helped him become an important man in his society. They had 6 kids. And although most men had more than one wife at the time, he only had one. He really did love his wife. And they say that about 610, when he was about 60, Muhammad had a vision of an angel named Gabriel, and he heard a voice tell him, "You are a messenger of God." And at different times throughout his life, he heard that voice talking to him. And he started preaching, and he told people they should worship one God, because at the time, in that area, they worshiped lots and lots of gods. And he said, no, just one. And he told people, and it's important that you be generous as a way of expressing appreciation to God. And he said, we're going to call this new religion Islam, which means listening to God or doing what God wants. But people in Mecca didn't like this new religion very much. You can imagine you're wandering around, you're worshiping any god you want, and all of a sudden some guy in a robe is saying, look, you only get one. He was not a fan favorite. So those who worshipped several gods were pretty afraid that the new Muslim religion was going to destroy their temples. And the merchants didn't like Muhammad because they said, well, he yells at us for being greedy. Muhammad was afraid his enemies were going to hurt him and his followers, so he got everybody together, and they moved to the nearby city of Medina. The date they moved, September 24th, is considered the birthday of Islam, and that trip became one of the most important early ideas in Islam. At the time, most people lived in tribes, and he wanted to join all the tribes together under Islam. And he hoped that if he got enough people together, they could spread Islam. His followers fought battles with Mecca to try to do that. Mecca gave up. Muhammad died on June 8th with his new religion spreading all over the Arabic world. After his death, though, his followers couldn't agree on who should lead them. And this led to the breakup of Islam into different sects. That's S-E-C-T-S. Or what we might call denominations. It's why we could have the atrocity that happened on 9/11, because one group are very angry and very devoted to a particular set of rules that may not be in the Quran, while everybody else doesn't follow that way of thinking. So that's part of what we're going to be talking about later, and I ask you all to help me sing the children out with the Rabi Children's Benediction. This is the time in our service where we do our offering, and every week we do it with some levity because giving should not hurt you. The strong man at a circus squeezed the juice from a lemon between his hands, and he said to the audience, "I will offer $200 to anyone in this audience who can squeeze another drop from this lemon." And several very strong-looking men came up, and they flexed their muscles. And they took the lemon and they squeezed and not another drop came out. And the strong man just laughed at them. And then a little tiny scholarly looking woman with glasses and gray hair walked up. She held her cane in one hand. She made it all the way to the front and she said, I'll try. And everyone laughed and she took the lemon and she squeezed and a stream of juice ran out. The strong man was amazed. He said, "What is the secret of your amazing strength?" And the woman said, "Practice. I was the leader of the stewardship drive for a UU church for 32 years. The morning offering will now be given and very gratefully received.
Good morning, UCOV. I'm Linda Taylor, and I'm here to introduce a video. Many of you know that UCOV is hosting a Right to Read festival on our campus at the end of February. Many faith-based and non-faith-based organizations have joined us. The most exciting thing is that those organizations also wanted to do more with social justice. So we've formed the Social Justice Alliance of Florida Suncoast. We will be able to help those organizations with their justice projects. The UU Fellowship of Charlotte County would like our support for the Immokalee workers. The chair of their social justice committee could not be with us today, but sent the following video.
Greetings to UUs in Venice from UUs in Port Charlotte. I am the chair of the Social Justice Committee at UUFCC. My name is Ted. We hope to work together with you on issues of common concern. For example, the farm worker conditions in Immokalee and beyond. In the 1930s, when labor unions were finally winning legal victories to improve working conditions, negotiate for benefits, and improve wages, a law was passed to deny field hands and domestic workers the right to unionize. For decades afterwards, field workers and maids saw few improvements, but abuses of them continued. In the 1990s, in Immokalee, a young field hand who was new to the job soon found out how hot, heavy, and back-breaking picking tomatoes is. He asked for water and was told there was none. So he walked off the field to get some water. The field bosses came after him and beat him bloody. He was hospitalized. The other workers, shocked, were outraged and said, "Enough." They got his bloody shirt and organized themselves to change these conditions. They learned it could not be a union, so they named it a coalition of Immokalee workers. After years of struggle and abuse, they attracted support and began to collect evidence. They turned to other people for help. Alliances were formed. They took their cases to court and won. Abusers were sent to prison, and the farm owners who hired them were fined. College students began to boycott fast food restaurants on or near campuses which used Florida tomatoes in their sandwiches, but would not agree to help the field workers get a penny a pound more for picking those tomatoes. Finally, Taco Bell was the first large corporation to sign on. Since then, 13 other large corporations have joined. Negotiation practices have been established. Rights have been spelled out. Protection, especially for women, enforced. Wages are properly recorded and paid. The Coalition of Immokalee Workers has won widespread recognition and praise at the United Nations, the White House, and across the world. A delegation from Chile recently came to learn how they were able to do it. The original founder of the coalition will soon be given an award by the University of Michigan. But all this is just the start. Millions of workers around the world and in America are still cheated, neglected, abused, and their basic humanity disregarded. The struggle goes on. Let us act to honor these achievements and to support humble workers at the bottom of the food chain in their struggles. The Social Justice Committee of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Charlotte County is planning a visit to Immokalee in September. We hope that you will do likewise, join us, maybe, and more. Thank you.
Okay, on Thursday, the 28th of September, we'll be meeting in Immokalee and tour the facility to see the progress they have made and ascertain what they need now and in the future. In the past, UCOV has supported the Immokalee workers. Some of you remember the workers who came here and spoke years ago. The Immokalee workers have become the poster child for immigrant farm workers everywhere. In order to carpool and give Ted a head count for lunch reservations, I'll need a sign-up sheet in the lanai. Please join us for this worthy cause on September 28th. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda. Please sign up on the sign-up sheet if you're interested in going. It's exciting to watch us expand into social justice because our greater world is part of our community. And as a church, what matters is our connections to people. We're a community of human hands and human hearts, and we come together here to share laughter and tears. We're entering into a time now of sharing joys and concerns, and as always, you can raise a hand. Someone will bring you a microphone. Please share information only with permission. Please remember that before or during a service, you're always welcome to come up and light a candle on the candle table. During Joys and Concerns, I'll light them for you. Could I have someone volunteer to run the microphone? Thank you, Stephanie. Does anybody have a joy or a concern to share today? We got one in the back.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Amick, and my husband Chuck is coming home tomorrow.
Wonderful.
So the saga continues, and I brought the plant today to celebrate, and I'm hoping that somebody from the Gardens Committee can take it out and plant it somewhere. It's a calancho.
Awesome, thank you. Do we have anyone else?
Hi, I'm Donna Jewett, and I'm back from New England, and I just wanted to say my husband died 2 years ago in August, and it was really nice to have a ceremony here with all your support, and I went back to New England for additional support from all the family, and I just feel blessed to have this family of support and friendship, and I appreciate you all, and it's good to be back. Thank you.
A small concern, just a reminder to everyone that COVID is on the rise again. Please, please, please get your vaccines as soon as you can. We are not going to be doing the postlude facing each other and singing for a while. As soon as it drops again, we'll go right back to doing it, but for our own health and protection, we're keeping people from singing directly at each other's faces. I have a joy that my mom's foot is doing very well after her partial amputation. She's feeling much better. She's back home and grumping at Dad and doing great, so all's good. May the love of this community hold all who need love and concern, and may the light of our community shine on the broken places of the world. May we never look away when we're needed. May those who are grieving be comforted and those who are tired find rest. May the broken places be healed. May those who are filled with joy and laughter be abundant. Our reading this morning is from the Nativity of the Prophet Muhammad, the Mawlid tradition by Omid Safi. He writes, as we celebrate the birth of the Prophet Muhammad, it is good to reflect on ways in which the various memories of Muhammad have continued to reverberate through Islamic society. And one of the loveliest ways has been a distinctly Turkish tradition called the Mawlid, which recalls and celebrates the actual physical birth of the Prophet. The poems, which might well be called the Nativity of Muhammad, they would be recited on major life occasions and have been for centuries. It's a key part of the devotional life of the Ottomans. There are multiple versions of these poems, but perhaps the most well-known and beloved Mawlid is that of Suleiman Chalabi. And so we're going to read a section of the poem which focuses on Muhammad as merciful. Those who recite the poems hope to turn their own homes and their own hearts and their own lives into one filled with God's mercy. The poem goes on to describe the very physical experience of birth, that magical experience where a life enters the world through a grace-filled opening, resulting in the opening of a new gate of mercy for humanity. And here's the poem. They described him in this style to me, stirred my longing for that blessed light, Armina said. When the time was ripe that the best of mankind should enter, I became so thirsty from the heat that they gave me sherbet in a glass. And drinking it, I was immersed in light and could not discern myself from light. And then a white swan came with soft great wings, and he touched my back with gentle strength. And the King of Faith was born that night. Earth and heaven were submerged in light. Now, Muhammad's mother, Amina, is much more than a simple vessel for carrying Muhammad. Her own experience here is mystical, saying that she was immersed in light, couldn't discern herself from light. The whole world was illuminated in that minute. These passages all recall a strong tradition of illuminative contemplation in Islam, going back to Quranic verses that describe God as the light of the heavens and the earth. In both Sunni and Shia traditions, human beings are seen as reflecting that light into the world, light upon light upon light. And the poem goes on and on and on, but there's a later section called The Great Welcome. In this, Muhammad is seen as more than just a child. He's the cure for pain, one who is not separated from the divine. He's a friend of God. And these are the words they use. Welcome, O High Prince, we welcome you. Welcome, O Mine of Wisdom. These are some of the names he's called. O Secret of the Book. O Medicine for Pain. O sunlight and moonlight, O you not separated from God, O nightingale of the Garden of Beauty, O refuge of your community, helper of the poor and destitute, cupbearer of lovers, darling of the beloved, mercy for the world, intercessor for the sinner. Just as the moon reflects the light of the earth, so does Muhammad reflect the light of God unto the cosmos. Now, I want you to think for a minute the contrast between that version and the violence you saw last week. This child who is heralded as someone who would bring peace, refuge, mercy, love, who understood these things in an amazing way according to this, and yet, holding those ideas in mind, please join me in 1 minute of silent meditation or thought or prayer. Please rise in body or spirit as you are willing and able, and join in singing number 396. I Know This Rose Will Open. We're going to sing it through 3 times. As a religion, we draw on sources, including most of the Abrahamic religions. You will find UUs who are Judeo-Christian, who are Jewish UUs, who are Christian UUs. You'll find atheist and Buddhist. You find humanist. We have folks who are Baha'i. We have some folks who are Hindu. But the source we tend to see the least are folks who are Muslim UUs, or who draw from the Muslim tradition. There are some, but you don't see them much, and you don't hear them almost at all. Why is that? Well, if I asked you which of the 3 Abrahamic religions you perhaps were most worried about, putting that gently. If I ask you which one you thought terrorist came from, and maybe not you all, but if I ask a general group, Islam gets a lot of bad press, probably the worst of the 3. Oh, all the terrorists are Muslim. Yeah, well, has anybody ever looked at Christianity's background? There is no God but God. That's pretty straightforward if you're trying to set up a one-God religion. There is no God but God. It makes sense. And Muhammad is his prophet. In one sentence, you have Islam. This is the Shahada, the testament of Muslim faith. Repeating it in Arabic and meaning it, believing it, whether or not you actually speak Arabic. You don't have to speak the language. You have to memorize the sounds. If you repeat the Shahada in Arabic, that is the actual requirement, the most basic requirement of becoming Muslim. That's it. No classes. No 3 Sunday nights, you gotta come and then you gotta go to a mixer. There is no God but God, and Muhammad is his prophet. That's it. That is one heck of an elevator speech. If you understand that piece, you understand the center of Islam. Muhammad is the human side of Islam, the human soul of Islam. And while many people learn something about the religious practices of the faith, non-Muslims don't often take time to learn about the man. Who was this guy who brought an entire religion into being? He wasn't a god or a demigod. He wasn't even a demi-human. He was wholly and completely human, remained human. Nobody ever said anything else. He had a job. He went to work. He got married. He had children. He got old. He died at 63. Now, at that time, that would have made him a very old man. He did not claim any special powers. He did not claim any relation to the divine. He said, I'm a prophet. I speak to something greater than myself. By the time he was 40, until his death, he preached a message, and that message has been written down as the Quran. And he tried to use his own life as an example of what he was preaching. 23 years it took him to write this book, one slow verse and section at a time. And even though if you sit down to read the Quran today, it's a tough read. It is a tough read. But at the time it was written, the language made sense to his audience. It's the equivalent of you today reading a Stephen King book. This was not written in fancy language. Translations have made it seem so, especially when they've tried to make it seem more beautiful, more poetic even than it was originally. It was the common tongue using words that people used in the ways they used them. And the modern equivalent of this would be me starting to preach and writing down every sermon in order, not just every sermon, but every sermon in order as I preach them, and then putting them in a book and deliberately handling every life situation I could think of and trying to give the best and most inspired advice I could give 2,000 words at a time. And that is exactly what you are reading when you read the Quran. This man trying to advise people on how to do a good job with life, about 2,000 words at a time, literally sermon length. There's no walking on water, no crucifixion, nothing out of the ordinary about this man. He was so determined that no one ever elevate him to deity status. That's where the rules about not putting his likeness anywhere. As you can tell, that has not gone well. It has become a point which has caused deaths because fanatics within the religion are so determined to not allow him to become an idol that they have idolized his absence. Muhammad became angry if anyone suggested he was special. We have written records of him telling people off for thinking he was amazing. He wanted people to focus on the message. He didn't want anyone to remember, and he said this, I don't want you to remember if I'm tall or short, fat or thin, handsome, straggly, dark-skinned, or light. And so the center of Islam is a curious combination of the Quran and the stories about what Muhammad did and said. And there are several thousand pages of these stories. And many Muslims reference them frequently. The stories are a part of the culture, just like the Quran is. And according to Islamic writer Michael Wolff, together with the Quran, they form a canon on which Islamic law is based. In a less formal way, these reports of what Muhammad said and did are used as a yardstick against which people measure their actions and intentions. Now, this sounds like something that we would like. A human man doing human things and saying, you know what, I think this is a good way to be. Now, admittedly, for some of us, the idea that a God was telling him what the choices were, not so good. But he still wasn't saying he was a God. He wasn't saying he was mystical. He just said, I figured out a good way to live. Just as the words of Jesus are woven into the fabric of every European language so that, believe it or not, most everyone knows who to credit with phrases like turn the other cheek and the meek shall inherit the earth and render unto Caesar those things that are Caesar's. In the Muslim world, the words of Muhammad are on the tip of every tongue and easily recognized, and collections of these are published, grouped into usable categories like knowledge and power and prayer and charity. Many of them were literally comments Muhammad made when somebody asked him a question. This is some guy saying something that lots of people found value in. This was the reality TV of the day. The closest thing we have today in our day and time is keeping up with the Kardashians. Somebody speaking, just answering questions, just talking. And somebody wrote it down. He said things like, asking good questions is half of learning. People with knowledge and those who seek it are the only two groups that are of any use to humanity. 3 agents destroy religion: an ill-tempered scholar, a tyrannical leader, and an ignorant theologian. I love that one. When asked about being kind, he said, happy are those who find fault with themselves instead of finding fault with others. And I love his comments about morality. Avoid anything that requires an excuse. My favorite, if people had been forbidden to make porridge of camel dung, they would do it, saying it wouldn't be forbidden unless there was some good in it. His comment on pride is another of my favorites. Strength does not lie in carrying heavy loads. A camel can do that. The essence of strength lies in taming your temper and your anger. About prayer, he said, during prayer, God lifts the veils and opens the gates of the invisible so that his servant is standing in front of him. Prayer creates a sacred connection between the one praying and the one prayed to. It's a threshold at the entrance to God's reality. We celebrate Mawlid, as you use, not because it's a day of miracles and wonders, no star rose anywhere, but because a human was born with wisdom to share. Muhammad, may all blessings be upon him, provided others with a simple way to connect and to live with integrity. And I would challenge you to take some time over this coming year. Get online. Find the Quran. There are multiple ways to interpret each section. If you do some reading online, you can find the interpretive structures. They make lots and lots of copies in English. Try to read a little bit. In your head, be thinking of it as when you start, you are reading someone's sermon number 1. Go through it in sections. You can actually watch his thoughts get deeper and more organized. See if there's any wisdom there for you to take. There may not be. If there isn't, you will at least have gained a better understanding of the base of this religion, which has fractured into so many pieces, just as Christianity did. Just because there are branches of Islam which are dangerous or hate-filled, branches which cause things like 9/11, does not mean that the religion is rotten at the root. See if there's anything there for you. There is no God but God, and Muhammad is his prophet. Ameen. Muhammad Tahir al-Qidari wrote, in a nation where the disbelievers sought heaven from the idols, the messenger of Allah, Prophet Muhammad, taught them that heaven can be found in a simple smile. May we smile and carry the light of our chalice in our smiling face and in our full heart this week and always. Please rise in body or spirit as you are willing and join in singing number 86, Blessed Spirit of My Life. O Allah, unite our hearts and set aright our mutual affairs. Guide us in the path of peace. Liberate us from darkness by the light. Save us from enormities, whether open or hidden. Bless us in our ears and eyes, hearts and spouses and children. Turn to us truly, most merciful. Make us grateful, so that we may continue to receive bounty and complete blessings upon us. Peace, Ashe, and may it be so.